And does Nebraska care about Nebraska? Because you see, God helps those who help themselves. And when you Nebraskans walked into the voting booth and overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump to be president, and now you're feeling the effects of that, this isn't I told you so. This is an FAFO. And I know there are Nebraskans out there that voted for Kamala Harris and did not fall into the trap of Donald Trump. Unfortunately, there were not enough of you. And now the rumors, and I'm having a hard time substantiating some of this, but the vibe that's going around is that Nebraska basically looks to be bankrupt in about 6 months because of the undocumented migrants that are being deported, or just the fact that undocumented migrants make up a large portion of their state and workforce on the farms. And they're not showing up to work because they're now afraid they're going to be deported. So Nebraskans, especially farmers in Nebraska, did you think any further than the front of your face? Did you think any further? Or were you just blinded by hate? And now people are coming out here asking, what about Nebraska? Do you guys care about Nebraska? No, I've already answered it, but the short answer is no. No, we don't. We don't care about Indiana, where I'm from. We don't care about Kentucky losing their bourbon up in Canada. We don't care about Jack Daniels in Tennessee.
Grand rising kings and queens from Africa and across the ocean. Today I'm diving deep into powerful and undeniable reality. Nebraska is showing what happens when Black America walks away. It's showing what happens when Black labor has gone. Now, the system is trembling when Black Americans decides to move, and they are panicking, okay? They are panicking, and we have seen. When I say that they are panicking, I'm talking about something deeper, deeper than just a bad week for Nebraska. I'm talking about power shift, a massive wake-up call, a truth America tried to ignore for centuries. Black labor, Black culture, Black brilliance are the backbone of this country of America. And now Black Americans are walking away, refusing to play the game. They're refusing to carry the system that never carried them. The cracks are showing up, and you can see from the economy, you can see from what's happening. Now, I will say this. This is just the beginning, because I just want to break down for you what's happening in white people's land or in Nebraska, and why Black Americans are walking away, and the historical weight behind this movement. And again, what we are going to talk about is the undeniable power of withdrawal, okay? Because this isn't just about Nebraska's story, this is a national revelation. But before we go down there, let's watch this video here from Nebraska, from white land, from our brothers and sisters. After watching these videos, we'll come back here and try to talk about what I do always.
Nebraska's biggest part of their economy at GDP is farming.
Right.
And they said 45 to 65% of the workforce is undocumented.
45 to 65%?
Yes. So
oh, shit.
with Trump rounding up illegals, what have those illegal immigrants done? They jump ship. They don't want to get raided while they're working. They don't want they don't want to get families broken up. So now so they predicted that Nebraska is 2/4 away from being bankrupt. The whole state, because there's no workers. Half of their workforce is undocumented immigrants. So now Nebraska is in a panic, is in an uproar. And most of them farmers are Trump supporters. They got exactly what they voted for. If all these illegals were taking your jobs, why don't you go fill and do the shitty jobs they were doing for less than minimum wage? If these illegal immigrants were taking your jobs, there's all these jobs available. You can do it. To work slave hours at slave wages, you can do it. They literally bit their nose and spite their face. Like they directly voted to deport the illegals, and now the illegals, they didn't even wait for deportation. They working somewhere else. I hope they don't want any government handouts, because that's socialism. They hate socialism. Hope they don't want any government handouts. Put yourselves up by your bootstraps. What's going to end up happening is these corporations are going to come buy your farm, and you going to work that farm. And you're going to be working for the corporations. They're going to buy it for pennies on a dollar, and you're going to be working your farm, and you're not going to own it.
News coming out of There's a little bit of good news coming out of Nebraska. I mean, if you could call it good news. They have identified a way to cut their budget shortfall pretty much in half. Now, If you haven't been paying attention to the story that's happening in Nebraska, there's a lot of panic that the state is going to go bankrupt. And there's some saying it will happen in just the matter of a couple of months because they have a $400 million budget shortfall. There's a lot of different reasons for it. Let me tell you what they are. But a lot of it very much is self-inflicted wounds. And now they're kind of dancing around going, oh my God, what did we do? Nebraska is experiencing right now at a state level what we're all about to face at a federal level. So I think it's important to pay attention there because this is what happens when you give giveaways and subsidies and tax breaks to the wealthy and you do all of these things that in the moment feel right because they get you votes and they get you popularity and they get you all this shit. And then when you have to pay the bills, you realized you fucked yourself. And that's exactly what Nebraska has done. I think the number one reason that Nebraskans should be concerned is that they've lost their immigrant labor. Nebraska was one of those states that had there's a lot of farming, a lot of agriculture type businesses, and they use a lot of immigrant labor. Whether they're documented or not does not matter. There were people who were not native Nebraskans who had moved there and were working there. Nebraskans, like a bunch of other states, voted for Trump, which told their immigrant population, we're not welcome here. Instead of waiting for the jackboot stormtroopers from ICE to come knock on their doors, the immigrants pieced out. We're going to go someplace where people will use our labor and will like us and will treat us with a little bit of dignity. So they probably hustled their asses to Colorado or California or someplace else where they could get work and they could be safer. So rumor has it that this was 60% of their labor force. And when you lose that much of your labor force, you've got no one to pick your wheat, you got no one to slaughter your cows, you're in big fucking trouble. So that's the start of it. They're not making as much revenue. They're not supplying as much food into the food chain, which, by the way, screws all of us. Our food supply is going to be fucked if this happens. So let's just say that. But they also did a lot of other things, right? They put in corporate tax breaks and they did all this other stuff. Now suddenly they don't have a pot to piss in. Their budget committee has gone back to work and they're trying to find places where they can find this money. And they've identified 165 million more in revenue that they can bring in. 65 million of it is from, well, let's just go ahead and raise the taxes on the corporations. Amazing how quickly the money pours in if you make everybody pay their fair share. But I digress. Anyway, they've also done some other things, cut some extra funding. They cut a major portion of funding to the University of Nebraska Medical Center, which is quite frightening for the people who work there and a lot of the research they're doing. Probably have to make a total separate video about that because university hospitals all across the nation are getting crushed right now because they're losing a lot of their funding. But one thing they've also decided to do was to take the cash out of their slush fund. Every state kind of has this emergency fund. And I get that they think, okay, this is an emergency. We got to use the slush fund. So they're putting their slush fund toward their budget deficit. I understand that. But what's happening is, in case you don't know, Nebraska is one of those, let's use the word socialist states, meaning they are one of those red states that gets more from the federal government than they put in. Okay, they get a ton of subsidies for their farmers. They get a ton of stuff. And sadly, there's a lot of people in Nebraska who are poor or even poverty level citizens. And they need government funding. They need things like Medicaid and SNAP benefits and those types of things. Well, when you've got the Doge dickheads going, nope, cut it all off. We don't give a fuck who starves. We don't care about poor people. We don't care about children. Cut it all off. What's happening is the federal government will start giving less to Nebraska. And Nebraska is going to be expected to pull herself up by her bootstraps. Not if they've raided their slush fund. If they don't have any money left in their slush fund, they can't help their hungry and poor citizens. So again, it's all self-inflicted wounds because this is how they voted and they supported an administration that was going to slash. They supported an administration that said, no more brown people. They did this to themselves and it's very hard to feel sorry for them, right? There's a lot of people on here that are like, bye-bye. But it's a major hit to our food supply. I took some notes. Let me just tell you. They are the third largest producer of corn. They're a big producer of soybeans. They are top 15 producer of wheat. And I don't know if you knew this, but Nebraska, number one in popcorn. They're the number one producer of popcorn. We stand a risk to lose our popcorn, people. But that's not even what I want to talk about. They are one of the top producers of beef. If you've not, I mean, there are some exceptional cattle ranchers in Nebraska, and they provide a huge portion of America's high quality beef, but also pork, poultry, and wait for it, eggs. You think they're expensive now? You shut down the state of Nebraska, that's a big hit to the egg industry. Now, the what would be the cherry on the top of the fuck around and find out Sunday is that 43 days before the last election, Nebraska's state house made a Hail Mary to try to change their electoral college process. If you're not familiar, Nebraska has 5 electoral votes, but it's not a winner take all. 3 of the electoral college votes go to, however, those 3 congressional districts. So if 2 of those districts go blue, that's two electoral college to the Democrats and 1 to the Republicans. And then the other 2 are given to the person who the party that wins the overall state. So if the Republicans win the total state, they would get that. So last year, the way it stood to be was that Donald Trump would probably get 4 electoral votes. Kamala Harris would get 1. 4 out of 5 isn't quite enough when you're a Trump-loving, conservative, middle America white man who happens to be in the Nebraska State House. They didn't even want the black lady to get even 1 vote. Oh, no, 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 no. They tried to change 43 days before the election. They tried to change their electoral college process to a winner take all. And luckily it didn't pass. There was somebody in the state house that said, this is dumb, we're not doing it. So it was dead in the water. But my point being is that this state is led and probably is populated by people who were die-hard, rabid Trump supporters. People who will throw a Hail Mary at the last fucking minute because they wanted him to have an even bigger win. And now they're crying on TikTok because they might go bankrupt. If you're a blue dot in Nebraska, hang in there, maybe pack your bags, maybe go to Colorado. I'm so sorry this is happening to you, and I'm so sad it's going to fuck our food supply for a very long time. But you fuck around and you find out. There's a little bit of good news coming out of Nebraska. I mean, if you could call it good news.
The state of Nebraska has fucked around and found out as they are ready to go bankrupt in the next 6 months. Their state's economy relies heavily on agriculture, and over 70% of their workforce is from undocumented immigrants. Knowing this, they voted for Trump, hoping that he would get rid of the undocumented immigrants. And now they are severely understaffed across the entire state, unable to find enough workers to replace the undocumented immigrants who supplied their state with enough workforce. This is the find out stage of fuck around and find out. In the next 6 months, the state of Nebraska will be entirely bankrupt, unable to support itself, and be looking for a bailout from the federal government. All because they let their racism and hate towards immigrants be more important than their economic livelihoods. There's nothing to feel bad about here. They voted for this. They knew exactly what they were voting for. Now they have what they wanted. Let's see how it turns out for them.
So this morning I ended up on Nebraska Talk, and it was a bunch of people crying, why does anybody care about Nebraska? When we voted for Kamala Harris, when I cast my vote for Harris, that was me saying, I care about you and I want you to survive and thrive. Okay, you knew better than anybody else that your state thrives and survives off of migrants' backs. Okay, and instead of them waiting for ICE to come, they decided to peace out before they could come and get them. I don't know what to tell you guys anymore. This is what you voted for. Whether you like it or not, whether you want to believe it or not, this is exactly what you voted for. And now you're feeling it. What do you want us to do? You want a government handout? That's socialism. You voted against that. No. Sadly, the reality is that you'll probably have to sell a lot of your farms for pennies on the dollar to large corporations and manufacturers. But don't worry, they'll probably let you work there for minimum wage.
So unfortunately, some really bad news for the Trump administration and also the United States of America. Reportedly, the state of Nebraska is between 2 and 3 months away from being completely bankrupt. DOGE has laid off thousands upon thousands of USDA workers, especially some of those that are combating the bird flu issue right now. The other issue, of course, is you may know that Nebraska is a very big agricultural state, and U.S. agriculture is under attack in many different ways. The other thing is that many immigrants were used to farm these lands, and of course they've gone as well. So this is really bad news for the United States. Nebraska is in the hole for over $500 billion. Feel free to give me a follow. Let me know what you think about this in the comments, but this is really bad news.
52,000 employees. The University of Nebraska system as a whole is a huge economic driver in our state.
Yeah, a newly released report is painting a better picture of that, while at the same time, millions of dollars in state funding could be on the chopping block. 1011's Anthony D'Agostino breaks it down and has more from the NU president.
When it comes to economic drivers of Nebraska, we all know agriculture is a top contributor, but there's another one you may not think about. A new report released by the University of Nebraska shows it, along with Nebraska medicine, generates nearly $12 billion for the state's economy.
We're vital to the economic sustainability of the state of Nebraska.
For every dollar the state invests in the university, it gets $10 back, according to the report. Founder of Trip Umbach, the research company that created the report, Paul Umbach, said it's the best investment you could make. Regardless, state lawmakers are looking to cut millions in funding.
So while you might say, well, let's cut research and we'll save some money, it's going to be a 10-time loss when there's not the innovation in ag, the innovation in medicine, the innovation in the other parts of the economy.
But state cuts aren't the only ones on the table. The future of federal dollars coming into the school is in question as President Donald Trump and Elon Musk reevaluate spending. A federal judge has ordered that funding to resume after a pause last week. But as of today, the university says that hasn't happened.
There will come a time, unfortunately, that if those restraining orders or these policies are not reversed, that we're going to have to make some very hard financial decisions that will, of course, affect the lives and the families of our employees.
NU President Dr. Jeffrey Gold says he's working with state and federal lawmakers to ensure the university receives the funding it needs. And this new report, he says, will go a long way in showcasing why investing in the university is a wise decision. Reporting in Lincoln, Anthony D'Agostino, 1011 News.
Apparently, Nebraska is going out of business soon, within the next 1 to 2 quarters. Why? Well, farmers to be exact, or farms. They can't seem to find anyone to work their fields. Nebraska, I wonder why that is. Could it be the racist rapist that you voted for that literally told you he was going to deport about 80% of your workforce? But you voted for him anyway because you wanted your bragging rights. That's right, you wanted to own those libs. Well, congratulations, Nebraska. You won your bragging rights, but now you lost your livelihood, and I have 0 fucks to give to you.
Welcome back. Now, some folks might just look at Nebraska and say that is a flyover country. But when Nebraska starts falling apart economically and socially, it tells us something real. And this is something the media won't tell you. The media won't say it loud. They are losing the people who made the system. They are losing the people who have built this. They are losing the people who work in their farms, and they cannot work. Crops aren't getting fitted. Business are closing. Farms can't find hands to work in the land. Even hospitals are struggling maybe to find staffs because black people are the real. And they are wondering what's going on. See, Nebraska, like many Midwestern and Southern states, rely on a silent expectation. Why am I saying this? Is that the black Americans who keep showing up, they will keep laboring, they'll keep making things more, being disrespected, being underpaid, and being unprotected. But those days, it's like over. Black people are waking up. The days are ending. And now Nebraska is getting a front row seat to what happens when black Americans says we are done. This is what I call the great refusal, or the global power shift. And when the power shift, people where the power is going to start organizing themselves. And that's why black people, or what black people are doing, they are organizing themselves and they are refusing to work for people who can't work for them again. And this is a movement in a black America that isn't always loud, but it is powerful. It is not just about protest. It's not just about voting. It's about withdrawing support from systems that never respect our worth as black people. It's about withdrawing support from the system that do not support black people, the black Americans. And I call it great refusal. Black Americans refusing to pour their energy into state company and institutions and don't pour back into us. You know, this example, it's when black nurses stop working in hospitals where they face racism daily. This is when black teachers walk away from underfunded schools and toxic school boards. This is where black workers say, I'd rather build my own than slave for years. And Nebraska, they are feeling the refusal so hard. Because once you lose black energy, you lose soul, you lose in innovation, you lose compassion, you lose resilience. Without black Americans, this system is just a hollow. The systems are hollow. And I always love to back my points by the history. I don't have my book today, but I will try to remember. From the cotton fields to the steel mills, from railroads to restaurants, black Americans built America for free for over like 250 to 300 years. Then when so-called freedom came, black folks were still expected to build, but now under worse conditions. Number one, under sharecropping, last hired, fast fired, redlined jobs, Jim Crow labor, and still black Americans made a way through this. Still black Americans made it work from the Great Migration to today's booming black entrepreneurship. Like our people, they build again. And they continue to build. And if they are in the midst of oppression. But we are saying no more building for others. That's what I'm seeing a lot of black people are saying. And I support that. No more building for others. Why? Because when you are building for others, those who tears you down, what are you doing? And Nebraska isn't falling because black people failed. Nebraska is falling because black people stopped serving them. And that shift is making white America nervous. The absence of black people has more impact than they ever wanted to admit. The absence of black people has caused their business to lose money. Absence of black people have caused their culture to lose relevance. Absence of black people has caused their politics lose legitimacy. It has caused their sports teams to lose excellence because black people are everywhere in the sports. Black people are everywhere in the creativity, mostly in schools. And when we have been told for decades that go back to Africa, but now that some black Americans are actually doing it. They are going back to Africa. They are reconnecting with the motherland. They are reconnecting with Kenya. They are reconnecting with Ghana. They are going back to South Africa. Black Americans are doing it and I love it so much. So black Americans right now are at least detaching from the US system mentally, spiritually, and economically. And the white America is terrified. Because when we leave, things fall apart. When we leave, business go down. When we leave, invention and creativities goes down, just like Nebraska. And it's not just Nebraska. All across America, cities are feeling the loss of black talent. Colleges are begging for black enrollments. Police departments are struggling to recruit black officers. Operations are panicking after DEI department collapse. But why do you think black Americans are choosing peace over paycheck? It's because of dignity over duty, power over pity. And the system isn't ready for that. They built the whole house assuming black folks would always be downstairs holding up the foundation. But right now things is changing. The foundation is rising up. And black people are walking out. And this is something they won't tell you on CNN or Fox, on the Fox News. Nebraska is a warning shot. It is a loud example of what happens when black Americans stop playing a role they were forced into. You see, they talk about labor shortages. They talk about economic uncertainty. They talk about changing demographic. But they never say the truth. We disrespected black Americans for so long. And now they are gone. They will not say that. They are gone from the workforce. They're gone from the schools. They're gone from the tax base. They're gone from their voting blocks. And they didn't know how to function without us. They don't know how to function without us. They don't know how to run these schools, these hospitals, this industry, this music, this world fashion without black people. Because black America never just worked. Black American created. Black American uplifted. They survived and they gave the country its rhythm, its soul, and its engine. And now they are watching what it looks like. What happens when the engine stops, because the engine is stopping for black Americans. It is. So family, I take this, for example, as our value, or the black people value, is not just about how much we give them, or it's about how much we realize our worth as black people. Because we don't need Nebraska. Nebraska needed black people. And as more black Americans are choosing themselves, their peace, their Africa, their freedom, their purpose, more of these systems will fall apart. And that's okay, because when something is built on exploitation, it should collapse. And when it's done, black people build their own. We build our own. Black America is rising, Africa is rising, the diaspora is awakening, and the panic you see is the proof that we are doing something as black people. They are panicking because they know the truth. Nebraska falling is just the beginning. Black America walking away is the future. And nothing can stop it. Nothing can stop it, because in Africa, we embrace our black brothers. We embrace our Caribbean brothers. And we are calling for them to come back. Because black Americans have built this country for so long. And we understand that if you build a country, it looks like your motherland. But we have to understand again, the motherland is one. And this motherland is Africa. The earlier you realize that Africa is good, the better. The earlier you want the mass movement to Africa, the better. And I will say this: once black Americans decide to move away from the Europe, from America, that is the starting falling of the falling of the empires. Black people are the one who are holding the empire on their palms of their hands. Without black people, there is no American empire. Without black people, there's nothing they can brag with, that they have done this and they have done that. They can't brag with anything. So black Americans are the real deal. And that's why I'm saying today, let's choose peace. Let's hold our dignity is the power. And we need that. Tell me what you think on the comment section about this video. Until next episode, peace out.